Hello and welcome to today's video on the expedition. Now I know a lot of you wanted to see this and I've seen in the comments that I don't talk simply enough for new players, so I'm going to make this as informative and as simple as I can so that everybody can follow along even if you haven't seen the expeditions before. Now there will be some tips along the way and I may even make a little list at the end of all the important things you need to remember. But if you do think of anything that I did miss, make sure to leave your comments down below so we can make this the best video for everyone to check out and learn from as a community. And if you already know how to make a team, you can skip to this time here to get straight into the map. But for everyone else, let's talk about the expeditions from the beginning, and to enter an expedition you need to have at least 3 things. Number 1, a clan to be able to make your squad to begin with. Number 2, you need to have at least one friend in your clan who is willing to do expeditions at the same time as you, but this can be up to 3 friends. And number 3, you need to have enough marauder maps to approve a team. I believe it's 5,000 maps, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but this won't be hard to build up if you were to leave active players in the raiders neighbourhood, as they are pretty easy to come across and the maps can be collected in a variety of popular activities. So once you have a full team, you will need it to be approved by someone in your clan at the rank of warlords or above. And then when it gets approved, all you have to do is be about once the time is up in the top left, but this will vary on when you make and get your team approved. So as a good point of reference, expeditions start at the same time as when you can deploy in clan wars. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of when you can be doing these throughout your day. Now again, I do have to stress that you do need to be about when the time is up, or at least when the clan wars is about to start, as the expedition will give you a 5-minute window for all of your team to ready up. But if one of you fails to meet that ready up point, it will cancel your team until the next time you can make a new one. Luckily, they have thought of a solution for that, and after 30 seconds within that 5-minute window, you can send a message to your clan asking for a substitute. This will then give you a chance to replace a person or people that don't ready up in time, but ideally, even if people are ready to be a substitute, don't swap them with the player instantly as it just takes seconds to do. So wait until there are at least 30 seconds left in case they were just late to being ready, and as a good practice though, it's always useful to send out that substitute request as soon as you get the chance. This allows your clanmates some time in deciding if they want to join you or not. In our case, we did pick a lower power player over the other, but in this case the player 𝐒𝐞𝐜𝐴 did reply back to our message first, and that's just the way we do our squads. For yourselves though, it would always be highly recommended to pick a player that is closest to your highest power player to give you the best chances of winning. As a good rule of thumb, other players should not be weaker than 40% of the strongest player in your team if you're doing a 4-man squad. But if you're doing a 2-man team, then I'd recommend being within 20% of each other's total power. This way their best fighters will still be able to help out your best fighters. This might not always be an option for you though, so just do your best in keeping to each other's power. Now that everyone is readied up, it's now just a case of waiting until you're able to find the enemy team, which doesn't take too long to do. And for anyone else who skipped into the video, this is where it will start for you, but again we will still cover all of the basics to make sure that everyone knows what they are doing. So first things first, you're going to want to check out the enemy squad to see how unbalanced the matchup is. Now you might be thinking that seems like a joke, but unfortunately that is normally always the case, and in this one we are clearly outmatched as they have a total power of 136 million, whereas we had a combined power of 61 million, so that's not even half of their power, meaning we're at a huge disadvantage. And as a spoiler, we don't do so well, but there are some major positives within these battles. The map you particularly start on will vary depending if you do a 2 or a 4-man team, and the waypoints will also vary on that choice as well. So follow this the best you can, and most of this content will be based on you playing as a 4-man team. But again, these maps will sometimes change, but you can still follow this advice in any situation. On this particular map, you can see that the camel on the very left is outside of its tent. This means it will be leaving this position next once everyone is readied up or when the timer is up in the middle. On the right hand side, you can see the camel's head is sticking out of the tent. This means after the round has passed, that is where the next camel will be starting from. This will be very important to know because of the multiple starting waypoints and knowing where you need to deploy next. And in this example, on the left, the camel will be moving towards the lively intersection. These intersections can change the direction of the camel if that was to suit your team, whether that was to be going up or down in this instance, but sometimes you can move them left or right. But you still need to have at least one fighter on that waypoint in order to change the direction of the camel, otherwise it won't allow you to press that option in the bottom right. The other big thing to note for all new players is you don't need to deploy on the intersection until the camel is on that position. This is the opposite for all the other standard waypoints that look like islands. Winning intersections and islands at the same time will require some teamwork, as you don't want your best fighters to be moving the camel to a certain direction when you need to be winning the island that they'll be moving to. So I would suggest to prepare yourself to win an ideal island or waypoint with your best fighters possible. In this case, it was only Iceman that could actually help me in this situation, as they were within that power bracket that I mentioned before. And the best way you can prepare yourself to win a fight is to have the best fighters from all your teams on one particular waypoint. The simplest way to work out who is best to deploy with is to look at their power. So as you can see, the last fighter I put up was a 2.5 million in power, and the game organises your squads based on the fighter's power from the strongest on the left to the weakest on the right. So ideally I need theirs to be at least that or more, and luckily their best fighter is a 2.7 million and after that 2.5. This will of course vary for yourself and depend on who you're playing with, but to start off with, just have a look at your teammates' squads and see which of their fighters, if any, be your top 6 fighters in power. If they do have better fighters than yours, then you should know how many of yours that you need to put up, and if by chance you are the weakest squad by far, then just save yourselves for fighting the intersection waypoints so your best teammates don't have to use their fighters on that waypoint as well. And on this waypoint we use 5 of my fighters and 3 of theirs to give us the best chance possible. I forgot to mention, which can be really important, and this does go for all types of waypoints including intersections. The first person to place their fighter on any particular waypoint will also be deploying their hero as well. You can swap this out if you wanted to by dragging your hero over the current hero selected, and you'll see a double arrow symbol above the current hero if you are able to swap them over. And again, this does require some teamwork, as your friends might have better heroes, so let them deploy first, or at least let them use their heroes on the more important waypoints and just use your hero elsewhere. But back to the waypoint in the top left, and unfortunately we do lose this battle, which was sort to be expected, especially with the types of enemies we were facing. But when you look at the replay, it wasn't as bad as you might think. Yes, we lost and they still had a few people left, but one big thing to remember is my Dragon Ball went down very quickly, which is very unusual to see. And I noticed they were turned to stone and were stuck for the whole battle, not being able to fire back. The Dragon Ball does most of my damage for my team, and obviously this is a big problem. So I realised I need to have more items that remove negative effects in my team, especially when facing really strong 8 or even 8-man teams. A good example, if you have the same issue, would be to start using a paladin in your team, since they can remove stuns once in a while at the 4-piece stage, and this will be used on the whole team. Another option could be to use the artifact like this one, which stops the enemy from using their artifacts for 4.5 seconds. This isn't always going to work at the right times though, so it is a bit of a gamble to be using it. But there are some other options out there, so it's just finding the right items that work for you that remove those negative effects. So even though the enemy won this waypoint, I can still explain what's happening right now. And because the enemy won, the camel will now have a red shield above their head, and you can think of these as like lives the camel has on that particular team. And if you or the enemy win 2 islands in a row, then the camel will have 2 lives for that particular side, making it even harder to win them back. This also means in this particular situation, we do need to win the 𝐒𝐴𝐽𝐻𝐻𝐻 waypoint in the top left, otherwise that camel will have 2 shields for the enemy team, making it impossible for us to win it back before it reaches the boat. And for people who don't know, when the camel reaches the middle, whoever holds the shields as they enter gains a single point, and that'll be the same even if they have 2 shields on them, and the game will be the first to 3 points, or the best out of 5, however you want to say it. And when we look at the other 2 fights I recorded, we can see that the fights weren't that far off, and even when you consider our team had less than 50% of their 4 teams' power. So even if you're behind, which is very likely to happen with this matchmaking, you need to make sure that you deploy on the waypoints correctly. Everyone has ways to improve their teams, especially for expeditions, so these can always be a good learning curves even if you're on the losing team. For myself, I know I need to work on my negative effect removals and alliances, but this will of course vary for yourself. But always take into consideration of your teammates when it comes to picking your hero's relics, as this will be very important to the matchups. I almost forgot to mention, if you wanted to watch any fight back and you wanted to see why you won or lost, then you just have to click on the double sword icon in the top left and see what battles took place. Before we get into the major tips, I wanted to mention that I do have a gameplay channel that has me currently playing Amnesia the Bunker, but I do have plans to play all the major AAA titles to come, like Payday 3, Assassin's Creed Mirage and Hellblade 2, so consider showing some support by clicking the link in the description to be taken to that channel and see what's being played right now. It's a great way of just chilling out before bed or just having a moment away from Hustle Castle where you can relax and still watch videos produced by myself. And thank you to everyone that does visit that channel. Anyways, let's start rounding up this video with a few more bits of information and a list of major tips. You may see people fight on waypoints or islands that don't have camels on them, and you really don't need to worry about this. That only benefits them if the camel was to move to that particular waypoint next and you wasn't planning on attacking them, which obviously you'll be wanting to. So again, just ignore them when they turn the whole map red. It really does nothing for them unless you don't fight on the future waypoints. You also might want to know how many marauder coins you earn for winning the game, and in this video you can see we won 3-0 and earned 300 marauder coins and 24,000 clan coins each. The Expedition store has some great sets for you to choose between, like the Eclipse, Octohand and Van Helsing, so there's still reason to try and go for these sets by participating in the expeditions. The video I just showed was us winning as a 4-man team, and I didn't want to show this video properly as it was a lot older and didn't cover all the points that I wanted to explain here today. But as you can see, it is possible to win these expeditions, but a lot of work needs to be made by the developers. So here's a small list of the things I think they need to change, and leave your comments below if there's anything else you think that needs to be changed as well. Firstly, when you make a team and it gets approved, you shouldn't need to be online and ready up within a 5-minute window. It almost seems pointless to have this rule when you don't even need your entire team to be present to win the waypoints. It almost seems like this rule is here to make it harder for people to do expeditions and to not benefit them at all. The next big problem is the matchmaking. Yes, you could argue it's quite difficult to always get a balanced matchup, but the way expeditions go, they are by far worse than arenas in matchmaking, and arenas already suck throughout every throne room level, so this isn't a good showing for the expeditions. A simple fix would be to remove that 5-minute search after everyone is readied up and instead allow the game to search for other players as soon as the team gets approved. This would be very similar to how clan wars work, and it would give plentiful time for the game to find an ideal matchup. The other alternative is to only find teams that are within a 20 camels or caravans collected to yourself. This means if your team was doing well, then you would only find other teams that are doing well themselves, and if you're doing badly, you would only be finding other teams that are also doing badly as well, making it a more fair matchup even if the powers don't make sense. Our clan in particular don't do a lot of expeditions just because of the poor matchmaking, but I recorded these so at least I can make this guide for you today. There are some other things that they could be changing, but I think that's enough for now since I don't actually think they'll implement any of these ideas. But one thing I could ask from you that could really make a change as a whole community, and that's to leave a comment on the official 𝐒𝐴𝐧𝐝 page and mention this video and this particular time. If enough people were to do this, I'm sure they would actually at least check this video out and see what I have to say and potentially make the expeditions a better place for everyone. But again, this will take a lot of people's comments to make this happen, as just myself isn't enough when trying to get their attention to things that need immediate change. So I really hope we can do this at least for the expeditions, and who knows, we might be able to get them to look at other videos that I do in the future. Now I wanted to end this video with a little recap of all the important things you need to remember for yourself to have a successful time in the expeditions. Number 1, always deploy on the waypoint where the camel is leading to and not where the camel is right now. Some people get confused by this, so I just wanted to make this clear. Number 2, always use your best fighters between all of your teams. For more advanced players of the game, you will know that power is an exact guide of how strong someone is. For example, a 2 million Darkula versus a 1.8 million Dragonborn, you know that the Dragonborn is a much safer bet. But for new players, just pick the best fighters compared to their power until you understand more about how good certain fighters are against each other. And advanced players, just take a moment to really understand who you should be deploying, even if the fighter's power might not always be stronger. Always go based off who is going to be better at winning the fight. Number 3, always use the best hero out of all the players playing, and this follows up to my next tip, which is to start working on your heroes a bit more, as this can affect up to 10 people in the expeditions, so even a slight improvement can make a really big difference. Number 4, try to find players that are within 40% of the strongest player in your team. The closer you can get everyone to each other's squad power, the better, and allowing your best fighters to combine and really have the best chances of winning those waypoints. Number 5, don't deploy on waypoints that you don't need to, in case the enemy deploys there for some reason and kills some of your potential fighters for literally no gain. Number 6, working towards your legendary titans has never been so important. I've already gone through the best patronage to use in my first Q&A video, but this will depend on what you want. Obviously the higher these are the better, as they generally can help out the whole team in quite an impactful way, especially when combined together. Number 7, work on your specializations throughout the cathedral, as again these abilities give bonuses to multiple fighters, so you want these to always be higher than the enemies for your best chances of winning. It's an area that a lot of people don't push hard enough and can have a big impact on your expedition fights. So the last tip I'll give for you today is for you to work on your top 3 fighters, and this will vary for yourself, but pick 3 people that you think would be good for expeditions and really focus on them more than other people. I know it can be easy to flip between different fighters, especially when events or runes come out and you want to try different things, but try and focus on 3 individuals in particular, and if your friends do the same, that means you're going to have 3 people each that are going to be superior compared to the enemy, and in combination that will give you again better chances of winning. That is everything for today. Please give this video a big like if you feel like this guide has been helpful to you, or at least could be helpful to new players. And I feel like there has been plenty here for beginners and even advanced players could learn from, so if you have made it to the end, you are one of the legends, and thank you again for watching this video today. And as always, enjoy your day, and I hope to see you in future videos I do here, or even on the other channel.